Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it. I should have known better. The moment my mother called, her voice sickly sweet, I felt the familiar stir of unease in my gut. Declan, darling, she cooed, stretching out my name like honey dripping from a spoon. Your father and I have been thinking. It's been so long since we had a proper family vacation. Just the four of us. Wouldn't that be lovely? A vacation, just the four of us. I knew exactly what that meant. Still, I hesitated. My younger brother, Orson, was only 20, still too easily swayed by their influence. If I refused, they would guilt-trip him into going alone, leaving him vulnerable to their tactics. And so, against my better judgment, I agreed. I booked the flights, first class. As my mother insisted, I reserved the suite at a 5-star resort. I even arranged their transportation because, of course, they couldn't be expected to handle those tedious details themselves. And not once did they ask how much it cost. Not once did they offer to pay. The trip began as expected. My mother swooned over the luxury. My father barked orders like he was royalty. Orson kept to himself, eyes glued to his phone, already regretting coming. It wasn't until dinner on the second night that reality smacked me in the face. We were seated at an elegant oceanfront restaurant, candlelight flickering over glasses of vintage wine. My mother, adorned in diamonds I hadn't even known she owned, beamed at me over her plate of imported steak. This is exactly what we needed, she sighed, cutting into her meat with delicate precision. Some quality family time. I opened my mouth to respond, but my father spoke first. By the way, Declan, we planned a boat tour for tomorrow. You'll cover that, of course. It wasn't a question. It never was. Something inside me snapped. Have you two ever considered paying for something yourselves? My mother blinked, feigning innocence. Oh, Declan, don't be so dramatic. We raised you. It's only fair you take care of us now. I scoffed. Take care of you? You mean finance your extravagant vacations? My father's gaze darkened. You owe us, after everything we've done for you. I cut him off, pushing back my chair. I don't owe you anything. Orson, silent until now, looked up sharply. A hint of something unfamiliar, understanding, flickered across his face. The next morning, I woke to an eerie silence. No messages, no calls. Just the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore. Something felt off. Still groggy, I reached for my wallet on the nightstand. My fingers met empty space. A cold chill ran through me. I sat up, scanning the room, my suitcase untouched, my phone right where I left it, but my wallet gone. I didn't need to guess. I already knew. Throwing on a shirt, I stormed out of my room, heading straight for my parents' suite. The door was ajar, their voices floating through the air like smug little whispers. Just for a few things, my mother was saying. He won't even notice. Of course not, my father scoffed. He's always throwing money around. It's time we got our share. I stepped inside. Got your share of what? They froze. My mother, clutching a receipt, turned with the grace of a cornered fox. Oh, Declan, you're up early. I held out my hand. Get it back. My father didn't even pretend to be ashamed. He tossed my wallet onto the bed like it was some useless trinket. Don't be so sensitive. We just borrowed it. I flipped it open, credit card missing. My jaw tightened. Where is it? My mother waved a dismissive hand. We charged the hotel expenses to your card, that's all. You would have paid for it anyway. I laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. Right, without my permission. That's called theft. She sighed, rolling her eyes. Don't be dramatic, dear. I didn't respond. Instead, I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and canceled the card with a few taps. My father frowned. What are you doing? Making sure you don't steal anything else. At that moment, a knock sounded at the door. The hotel manager stood there, flanked by 2 staff members. He looked apologetic, but firm. Mr. and Mrs. Calloway, he said, nodding to my parents, your payment for the suite has been declined. The color drained from my mother's face. My father stiffened. That's impossible. The manager glanced at his tablet. The credit card on file was just canceled. His eyes flicked to me. Understanding dawned on his face. I crossed my arms. Guess you'll have to pay for your own luxury this time. For the first time, my parents looked genuinely panicked. My mother turned to me, voice sugar-coated with desperation. Declan, be reasonable. Just reactivate the card for now. We'll sort it out later. I smiled. No. The manager cleared his throat. If the payment isn't settled, we'll have to ask you to vacate the room. My father's face twisted in fury. This is ridiculous. Do you know who I am? Yes, sir. The manager said coolly. A guest who hasn't paid. My parents? They were about to learn what it felt like to be powerless. The tension in the hotel lobby was suffocating. My parents stood at the reception desk, red-faced, arguing with the hotel manager, who remained polite but firm. The staff behind the counter avoided eye contact, pretending to be busy, while a few curious guests lingered nearby, entertained by the unfolding drama. This is absurd, my father barked, slamming his palm on the counter. We're respectable customers. We've been staying here for days. You can't just throw us out like criminals. The manager remained calm. Sir, we're simply following policy. The card on file was declined, and unless you provide another form of payment. My mother turned to me, her expression a perfect mix of outrage and desperation. Declan, stop this nonsense. Just fix it now. I folded my arms. Fix what, exactly? The part where you stole my card, or the part where you assumed I'd let you get away with it? You're our son, she hissed, lowering her voice. It's your duty to help your parents. Help, I let out a dry laugh. You mean fund your entire vacation without asking? You manipulated me into coming here just to use me like a personal ATM. Orson, standing beside me, shifted uneasily. I glanced at him, wondering what was going through his mind. He had always been the quiet one, the obedient son. But today, I saw something different, something brewing beneath the surface. My father turned his anger on him next. And you, just standing there like a coward. You think this is funny? Orson hesitated, then squared his shoulders. No, he said, his voice steady, but I think Declan's right. A flicker of disbelief crossed my father's face. Excuse me. Orson took a deep breath. You've been doing this for years, treating him like a walking wallet, like he owes you something just for existing. It's not right. My mother's mouth fell open. My father's face darkened, his hands curling into fists. Then, in a sudden burst of rage, he grabbed Orson by the arm and yanked him forward. Don't you dare talk back to me. Before I could think, I moved. My hands were on my father's wrist, prying him off Orson with more force than necessary. He stumbled back, his eyes blazing. The hotel manager, who had been watching the entire exchange, immediately raised a hand to the nearby security guard. That's enough, he said firmly. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises, now. My father seethed, his gaze darting between me and Orson. My mother grabbed his arm, her face pale. Let's go, she muttered through gritted teeth. We'll figure this out later. No, I said, stepping closer. There is no later. I'm done. I turned to Orson. You coming? For the first time, he didn't hesitate. Yeah. And just like that, we walked away, leaving our parents behind, fumbling for excuses, scrambling for control, and finally facing the consequences of their own greed. The notification from my bank appeared on my phone just as I was sipping my morning coffee. Fraud alert. Suspicious credit application detected in your name. My stomach dropped. I immediately called the bank. A robotic voice guided me through security questions before transferring me to a representative. Mr. Caldwell, we flagged an attempt to open a new credit card under your name. It was submitted earlier today, but raised concerns due to mismatched details. I clenched my jaw. Who applied? An individual claiming to be your parent, the banker said carefully. They provided your social security number, but the contact details led to a flagged account. My blood ran cold. Of course, my parents, desperate after the hotel fiasco, had resorted to fraud. Decline it and freeze my credit immediately. Understood. We'll also report this as an identity theft attempt. I hummed up, pulse racing, and turned to Orson. He frowned. They wouldn't. They already did. I tossed my phone onto the table. They actually tried to steal my identity. Orson's face darkened. They've really hit rock bottom. I exhaled sharply. No, Orson. They haven't hit rock bottom yet, but they're about to. The call came late at night. A gruff voice on the other end. "Mr. Caldwell, your parents have been arrested." I sat up in bed. For what? Fraud, identity theft. Caught trying to sneak hotel towels, bathrobes, and slippers into their suitcases. I nearly laughed. This was how it ended. Not with some grand scheme, but with them stuffing stolen linens into their luggage. Orson, sitting beside me, rubbed his face. They never learn. Days later, we watched as they left the courthouse, handcuffed, disgraced. My mother spotted us and wailed, "Declan, we're your parents. Help us." My father sneered, "You think you're better than us?" I met his glare. "No, but I'm free." Orson and I walked away, leaving them to face the consequences alone. Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.